Most people think they bought a bad suitcase because the brand was cheap or the bag was defective. That's usually not true. What actually ruins trips are a few small design features that don't show up until you're inside a real airport, on carpet, in long terminals, down airplane aisles, or when your carry-on gets taken at the gate. This video exists because I made that mistake myself. I bought a carry-on that looked fine and packed well, but the moment I started traveling with it, it became a problem. And that one bad purchase made me realize how many suitcases fail for the exact same reasons, not because of the brand, but because of the features. For context, I'm a pilot's wife, and we usually travel carry-on only. That means I've used a lot of different bags over the years, some great and some not so great. This isn't a sponsored video, and I'm not bashing any luggage brand. Even good brands have bad designs, especially limited editions or style-focused models. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact features that cause the most stress while traveling: handles that don't track straight, wheels that fight you on airport floors, bags that waste interior space, and small design choices that matter a lot more than people realize. If you're planning to buy a new suitcase this year, this will help you avoid wasting money and ending up frustrated at the airport. If travel is something you care about, consider subscribing, because this channel is all about practical, real-world tips that make flying easier. Today, you're going to learn 10 luggage features you should absolutely avoid before you buy a new suitcase for airline travel. Feature 1. Wobbly or weak handles. Handles might seem like a small detail when you're buying a suitcase, but in reality, they are one of the most important features you need to pay attention to. A handle that wobbles or feels loose might not bother you in the store, but in an actual airport, it can completely ruin your travel experience. Think about it. Long terminals, narrow airplane aisles, jet bridges that require precise maneuvering. Every time you move your bag, your hands and wrists are the only things keeping it under control. A weak handle makes steering unpredictable. On carpeted floors, which most airports have in certain areas, even small jiggling can throw off the bag's direction, forcing you to constantly adjust and fight against the suitcase. That's unnecessary stress when all you want is to get to your gate smoothly. Here's a simple rule. If the handle jiggles in the store, avoid that bag. Test it by pulling it in different directions. Push it back and forth, and imagine walking with it for miles. A solid handle should feel sturdy, give you control, and make your bag feel like an extension of your arm, not something you're constantly wrestling with. And if you think that's bad, wait until we get to the wheels, because even the sturdiest handle can't save a suitcase that fights you at every step. Feature 2. Bad wheels. Wheels are probably the single most important part of a suitcase, yet so many people overlook them when shopping. In 2026, this has become even more critical because airlines are stricter with forced gate checking. If your bag won't roll properly, you're suddenly wrestling with it on a crowded jet bridge or struggling to maneuver through long terminals. And trust me, once you've fought with a suitcase that refuses to roll straight, you'll never forget it. I've had that exact experience. Walking across an airport tile floor, my bag kept veering to the right no matter what I did, and I ended up physically correcting it every few steps. It was exhausting and completely avoidable. So, how do you test this before you buy? First, take the suitcase out of the store and try it on the smoothest surface you can find. Tile floors are perfect. Push it lightly and see how it rolls without forcing it. Then, if possible, try it on short pile carpet, which simulates airport carpet. You want wheels that glide straight, don't stick, and don't require constant correction. This simple in-store test will save you hours of stress later. Another tip, don't just test straight pushing. Try steering it around corners or making a slight turn as if you were entering an aisle on a plane. Wheels that can't handle minor directional changes will make every airport corner feel like an obstacle course. And remember, a bad wheel can turn even a sturdy handle into a fight. So if your suitcase has weak wheels, it doesn't matter how good the handle is. But here's the kicker. Even if the wheels look decent, there's another hidden feature that can make them fail completely in real airports. And that's exactly what we'll cover in the next section.
Feature 3. Single wheels. Single wheels on a suitcase might seem fine at first glance, and honestly, they're not an automatic deal breaker, but they do come with some serious risks that you should be aware of before buying. The first problem is breakage. Single wheels often carry the entire weight of the suitcase at one point, and in busy airports or during checked luggage handling, they can pop off easily. The second issue is lack of protection. With no extra support around the wheel, it's more exposed to bumps, curbs, and rough surfaces. A single knock can damage the wheel or the suitcase body itself, leaving you with a bag that barely rolls. This problem is especially noticeable in certain travel situations. If you've ever navigated cobblestone streets in Europe or the uneven pavement in old city centers, single wheels can make walking feel like an obstacle course. Every step can jar the bag, making it unstable and tiring to maneuver. So while single wheels aren't always a deal breaker, they increase the chances of travel stress, especially on rough or unpredictable surfaces. And speaking of wheels, the next issue is closely related. It's all about friction and how easily your suitcase actually rolls. That's what we'll cover in the next section.
Feature 4. High friction, slow wheels. Even if your suitcase has multiple wheels, not all wheels are created equal. One of the biggest mistakes travelers make is buying wheels that are slow or have too much friction. Think of it like rollerblades. When you spin a good wheel, it keeps rolling smoothly, but with cheap or poorly designed wheels, the spin stops almost immediately and you have to constantly push the suitcase to keep it moving. Here's an easy way to test this in the store. Stand behind your suitcase, give it a gentle push, and let it roll on a smooth floor. The wheels should glide several feet without any extra effort. If they stop quickly or feel sticky, that's a sign the suitcase will tire you out over long distances in airports, especially during connections or when you're rushing to a gate. Friction might seem like a small detail until you're dragging a heavy bag across a long terminal or struggling with a crowded jet bridge. Every step becomes extra effort and fatigue sets in much faster than you'd expect. Here's a simple rule. Bad wheels equals don't buy the suitcase. Wheels are the part of the bag that literally moves your trip forward or holds you back. And if you thought friction was frustrating, wait until you see how single wheels and exposed designs can make even good wheels fail completely. That's the next feature we're covering.
Feature 5. Heavy, empty weight.
One feature that often gets overlooked is the empty weight of your suitcase. It might not matter at home, but in 2026 airline travel, it can make a huge difference. Airlines have strict weight limits for carry-ons and checked bags, and even a few extra pounds can push you over the limit, forcing a last-minute gate check or overweight fees. Carry-on versus checked bags makes this even trickier. A heavy carry-on means less packing flexibility because you're already using up your allowed weight before adding clothes and essentials. I learned this firsthand with a 10-pound suitcase I bought. It felt sturdy, but once I packed my usual travel items, I hit the limit almost immediately. Here's the honest trade-off. Sometimes heavier bags are better built or more durable, but you need to balance durability with usability. A suitcase that's too heavy from the start can cause frustration, extra fees, or even make maneuvering through the airport harder. Simple reminder, always check your airline's size and weight requirements, and don't rely on marketing claims that say a bag is lightweight or travel-friendly. And if you think weight is tricky, just wait until we talk about cute fabrics and designs that can trick you into buying a bag that looks good but fails in real airports. That's our next feature.
Feature 6. Buying for cute fabric or design. One of the biggest mistakes travelers make is buying a suitcase just because it looks cute. Emotional buying is real. A fun color, a shiny pattern, or a trendy fabric can make you fall in love with a bag in seconds. But here's the hard truth. Cute doesn't survive airports. I learned this the hard way with a lavender fabric suitcase that I absolutely loved. It had all the little details I thought were perfect, and I was ready to take it everywhere. The problem? I waited too long to return it, thinking I could handle it for just one trip.
Once I used it at the airport, I realized that all the cute stripes and fabric details didn't hold up to real travel conditions. Handles rubbed, zippers snagged, and the bag just didn't perform like it should. The lesson here is simple. Looks can be deceiving. Focus on functionality first, fabric second. Test it, feel it, and imagine it under real travel conditions before letting the cuteness win. As I like to say, sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a bag that actually works for traveling. And speaking of packing efficiently, the next feature is one most people completely overlook: bags that don't expand or waste interior space. That little detail can make a huge difference on a trip. No expansion or poor interior depth. Another feature that can quietly ruin your travel experience is a suitcase that doesn't expand or wastes interior space. Many carry-ons look fine from the outside, but once you start packing, you realize there's no room to fit a few extra items. Even an extra 2-3 inches of depth can make a huge difference. It can be enough for 3 more shirts, a jacket, or extra shoes. Pay attention to the space between the wheels. Some suitcases are just a rectangle with 4 wheels barely hanging underneath, and there's no extra room at the bottom. That design might look neat, but in reality, it limits packing space and can make your bag heavier without adding functionality. Cheap bags often have this exact problem. They cut corners to save on cost, leaving you frustrated when you try to cram in your travel essentials. It's also worth noting why brands skip this feature. Adding expandable space or designing the interior cleverly costs more. But for travelers, that extra inch or 2 translates directly into stress-free packing and fewer compromises at the airport. And if you think interior space is the only hidden problem, the next feature shows why wheel protection and durability are just as critical, especially on rough surfaces and cobblestone streets. Feature 8. Unprotected or exposed wheels. One feature that's easy to overlook but can ruin a trip is unprotected or exposed wheels. Some suitcases have wheels hanging down with barely any protection around them. That might be fine on smooth tile floors, but in reality, think rough pavement, cobblestone streets, or even busy airport baggage areas, exposed wheels are more likely to get damaged, crack, or make your suitcase unstable. A simple solution is embedded wheels. These wheels sit slightly inside the frame of the suitcase, giving them protection against bumps and impacts. Two-wheel designs often have this by default, but even spinner suitcases benefit when the wheels are partially recessed. I've tried both types, and while I won't push any specific brand, I can say from experience that wheels without any protection are a constant headache on real trips. Here's an easy way to spot this in the store. Look from a distance. If the wheels hang off the suitcase with nothing around them, that's a red flag. You don't need to open it or test it on carpet. Your eyes will tell you everything you need to know. And if you thought wheels were already complicated, wait until we get to zippers. A suitcase with perfect handles and wheels can still fail completely if the zippers aren't up to standard. That's what we'll cover next. Feature 9. Poor zipper quality. A suitcase can have perfect handles and wheels, but if the zippers fail, your whole trip can quickly turn into a nightmare. Imagine packing everything neatly only to have a zipper split in the middle of the airport or get stuck while trying to gate check your luggage. That kind of failure is trip ruining, and unfortunately, it happens more often than people realize. Here's a simple way to test zippers before you buy. Zip all the way around the bag, including corners, and feel for any snagging, stiffness, or resistance. Smooth zippers are essential, especially for carry-ons that get tossed, rotated, or squeezed into tight overhead bins. Some brands use YKK zippers, which are widely recognized as a mark of quality. Not to sell you on a brand, but just so you know what to look for. Another tip, consider how often your bag might be gate checked. Even if you never lock your luggage, the zippers need to glide smoothly and hold securely under pressure. A bag with poor zippers can split open, snag on something, or even spill contents when the overhead bin is full. And while TSA-approved locks are an option, most travelers don't use them consistently. So the bag's zipper quality alone has to handle real-world airport stress. If you think that zippers are the last thing to worry about, the next feature proves that even strong zippers are useless if your handles are positioned incorrectly, causing strain on your wrist and arm every time you lift or pull the bag. Feature 10. Bad handle placement. Even the best suitcase can become a pain if the handles are poorly placed. Most people don't think about ergonomics, but it matters a lot, especially if you're traveling alone or carrying a full bag through crowded terminals. The top handle should align with your dominant hand, usually your right hand, so that your strongest muscles bear most of the weight. The secondary handle on the side should guide or stabilize the bag with your weaker hand. I learned this the hard way with a carry-on I eventually gave away. People kept telling me, just turn it around, but that doesn't solve the problem. When the handle is misaligned, your wrist twists, your forearm fatigues, and even short lifts onto luggage racks become awkward and painful. That misalignment multiplies fatigue over long walks through airports or boarding bridges. Here's a quick in-store test. Pick up the suitcase as if you were about to wheel it through a terminal. Make sure your strong hand is doing the heavy lifting and your weaker hand is only guiding. If it feels awkward or forces your wrist to bend unnaturally, avoid that bag. Proper handle placement is a small detail that makes a huge difference in comfort, control, and travel efficiency. And if you think you've seen all the small things that matter, there's one last bonus tip: packing every corner of your suitcase efficiently that most travelers completely overlook, and it can save a surprising amount of space. We'll cover that next.
The bonus tip in mind, you'll save yourself frustration and actually enjoy your travel. If you want to take it a step further, check the pinned comment. I've linked my packing hacks video that shows exactly how to use every inch of your carry-on, especially those overlooked corners. It's a game changer for airline travelers. And if we haven't met before, I'd love for you to subscribe. This channel is all about practical, real-world travel tips that make flying easier, faster, and less stressful. Safe travels, and I'll see you in the next video.